The night was cold and eerily quiet, the kind of night where the city seemed to hold its breath. Marcus Hale, a billionaire known for his ruthless business tactics and equally private life, was driving back to his penthouse after a late meeting. The dark streets were nearly deserted, save for a few flickering streetlights. As his sleek black car turned down a narrow alley, a sudden movement caught his eye, a small figure darting from the shadows. Marcus slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. Out of the darkness, a terrified young black girl appeared, barefoot and trembling, her clothes torn. Behind her, two men emerged, shouting and giving chase. The girl's panicked cries pierced the night. "Help, please! Don't let them take me!" she screamed, her voice hoarse with desperation. Without thinking, Marcus threw open his car door and ran toward her. The two men froze for a split second when they saw him. Tall, broad-shouldered, and radiating authority. "Get away from her!" Marcus roared, his voice echoing down the alley like a warning shot. One of the men sneered, "This is none of your business, old man." But Marcus didn't back down. In a swift, calculated move, he shoved the girl behind him and pulled out his phone, pretending to dial the police. "I've got your faces on camera," he said coldly. "The police are on their way." The kidnappers hesitated, exchanging nervous glances. Clearly, they hadn't expected interference, especially from someone like Marcus. After a tense moment, they cursed and ran off into the darkness. Marcus didn't waste a second watching them go. He turned to the girl, who was shivering uncontrollably. "You're safe now," he said gently, crouching to meet her frightened eyes. "What's your name?" She sniffled and whispered, "Zara." Marcus wrapped his coat around her small shoulders, feeling the sharp chill of her thin frame. "Zara, you're going to be okay. I promise." Marcus carried her to his car and settled her carefully in the back seat. As he drove toward the nearest hospital, Zara clung to his arm, terrified he might leave her. Between sobs, she explained that she had been walking home when the men grabbed her. They had been following her for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel, rage simmering beneath his calm exterior. He had spent years fighting corporate battles, but this was different. This was evil, raw, and personal. At the hospital, doctors rushed to examine Zara. Marcus stayed by her side the entire time, refusing to leave even when the nurses hinted he could go. When the police arrived to take her statement, Zara buried her face in Marcus's chest, refusing to speak to anyone else. The officers questioned Marcus instead, impressed by his quick thinking. They promised to find the kidnappers, but Marcus wasn't satisfied. "You better do more than promise," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "This little girl deserves justice." While the investigation began, Marcus learned that Zara's home life was heartbreaking. She lived in a rundown neighborhood with no father and a mother who worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. That night, Marcus insisted on driving her home personally. When they arrived, her mother, Lila, burst into tears, hugging her daughter tightly. She thanked Marcus over and over, but he waved her off. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I just did what anyone should do." Lila shook her head, eyes brimming with gratitude. "No," she whispered. "Most people wouldn't have done anything at all." In the days that followed, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about Zara. He checked in on her regularly, bringing groceries and helping Lila fix things around the house. Slowly, Zara began to open up to him, smiling shyly when he visited. Marcus discovered she loved drawing and would often sit at the kitchen table with crayons, sketching colorful pictures of her dreams. A safe home, a puppy, a beautiful garden. Each drawing pierced Marcus's heart, reminding him of the family he'd once lost. One evening, Marcus overheard Zara telling her mother, "I feel safe when Mr. Marcus is here." That simple statement changed something inside him. He realized he didn't just want to protect Zara for now. He wanted to ensure her safety forever. He hired private security to patrol their neighborhood and even began funding community programs to keep other children safe. The media soon caught wind of his efforts, and headlines blazed. "Billionaire hero saves girl, transforms neighborhood." But Marcus didn't care about the publicity. For him, it was never about the headlines. It was about Zara. As time passed, Marcus and Lila grew close. She was strong and resilient, a woman who had faced endless struggles but never gave up. Marcus admired her deeply, and Zara began to see him as a father figure. One night, as they all sat around the table sharing dinner, Marcus realized this little family had filled the empty space in his heart. When Zara shyly handed him a drawing of the three of them standing under a rainbow labeled "My Family," Marcus couldn't hold back his tears. Months later, the kidnappers were caught and sentenced to prison. Zara finally slept soundly at night, no longer haunted by fear. On a warm spring afternoon, Marcus, Leela, and Zara returned to the park where it had all begun. As Zara laughed and played, Marcus turned to Leila. "That night changed everything for me," he confessed. "I thought I was just saving a little girl, but really, she saved me." Leila took his hand, smiling through tears. "And now, we'll never face anything alone again." As they watched Zara run freely under the sun, Marcus knew that what started as a moment of instinct had grown into a lifelong bond, a family born out of courage, love, and second chances. Years later, the memory of that terrifying night remained etched in Marcus's mind. But instead of darkness, it now carried a light of hope. Zara had grown into a confident, joyful teenager with a bright future ahead of her. She excelled in school and dreamed of becoming a lawyer, determined to fight for justice for children like her who had no voice. Marcus supported her every step of the way, funding her education and even setting up a scholarship program in her name to help other kids from struggling neighborhoods. Whenever people asked why he was so passionate about these causes, he would simply smile and say, "Because one little girl changed my world." Lila's life had transformed as well. With Marcus's help, she was able to return to school and eventually opened a small business that brought stability and pride to their family. She and Marcus had grown inseparable over the years, their bond deepening into a love neither of them had expected. One evening, surrounded by friends and neighbors, whose lives had also been touched by Marcus's generosity, he proposed to her under the same streetlight where he had first seen Zara running for her life. Tears streamed down Lila's face as she said yes, while Zara cheered loudly, throwing her arms around both of them. The wedding was a beautiful, intimate affair filled with laughter and gratitude. As they danced together for the first time as husband and wife, Marcus whispered to Lila, "I thought I was rescuing you and Zara that night. But it turns out you rescued me." Lila smiled, resting her head on his chest. From that moment on, Marcus wasn't just a billionaire or a headline-making hero. He was a husband, a father, and a man who had found purpose beyond wealth. And as Zara watched them with a wide, beaming smile, Marcus knew that his greatest fortune wasn't in his bank account. It was right there, in the family he'd built through love, courage, and one life-changing act of kindness. As the years went by, Marcus's act of bravery that night continued to ripple through the community like waves in a pond. The scholarship fund he had established in Zara's name grew into a nationwide initiative, giving thousands of children the chance to break free from poverty and danger. Schools, shelters, and youth programs bore Zara's name, a reminder of how a single moment of compassion could transform countless lives. Zara herself thrived, graduating at the top of her class and earning a full ride to a prestigious university. When she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, Marcus and Lila sat in the front row, tears in their eyes and pride radiating from their faces. During her graduation speech, Zara spoke about the night Marcus saved her. Her voice trembled at first, but grew steady as she looked out at the sea of faces. "I'm standing here today because one man didn't just see a frightened little girl running through the dark. He saw a future worth protecting. That moment changed everything for me, and now I want to dedicate my life to being that person for someone else." The audience erupted into applause, many moved to tears. Marcus's heart swelled with pride. Knowing he had done more than just save Zara's life, he had helped ignite a fire in her that would keep burning for generations. After the ceremony, Marcus pulled Zara into a hug and whispered, "You've become everything I knew you could be and more," Zara smiled, hugging him tighter. "And you've become the dad I never thought I'd have." That evening, as the family gathered for a quiet celebration at home, Marcus reflected on his journey. Once his life had been about power, money, and prestige. But that night, when he saw a terrified little girl running barefoot down a dark street, all of that had shifted. Now his legacy wasn't measured in dollars or business deals. It was measured in lives changed, in the love of his family, and in the hope they continued to spread. And as the sun set, casting a golden glow over their home, Marcus knew that the best decision he had ever made was the one that shocked everyone. Choosing to stop, choosing to care, and choosing to save a little girl who would grow up to change the world. Man. Years later, Marcus's influence stretched far beyond the city where that fateful night had taken place. The scholarship fund bearing Zara's name had grown into an international foundation, helping children escape poverty, abuse, and trafficking across the world. Zara had become a global advocate, speaking at conferences and working with governments to protect children's rights. Despite her busy schedule, she always returned home to Marcus and Lila, never forgetting the family who had saved her and given her the chance to dream. Marcus, though older and slower now, still attended every important event, proudly watching Zara from the front row. Sometimes, as she spoke before thousands of people, his mind would wander back to that single moment, the image of a terrified little girl running barefoot in the dark, chased by evil men. That night, he had acted on instinct, without knowing that his decision would alter not only her fate, but his own as well. One evening, after a major charity gala, Marcus and Zara sat together on the balcony, overlooking the city skyline. Zara rested her head on his shoulder, just as she had when she was a child. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked softly. Marcus smiled, his eyes misty. "Every day," he admitted. "It reminds me how fragile life is, and how powerful one choice can be." Lila joined them, wrapping a blanket around their shoulders as the cool night breeze swept through. The three of them sat in silence for a moment, the bond between them unspoken yet unbreakable. Marcus finally said, "I used to think my wealth was my greatest achievement. But now I see it was never about money. It was about what I chose to do with it. About you, Zara. About us." As the city lights twinkled below, Zara whispered, "You didn't just save me, Dad. You showed me how to save others." Marcus hugged her tightly, knowing his legacy was secure. The world would remember him as a billionaire philanthropist, but in his heart, he was simply a father who made a choice one dark night. A choice that brought light to countless lives and turned tragedy into a lifelong story of love and redemption decades later. When Marcus had passed on peacefully in his sleep, the world mourned not just a wealthy man, but a true hero whose compassion had reshaped countless lives. Zara, now a woman of remarkable influence and grace, stood before thousands at his memorial service. Her voice trembled with both sorrow and pride as she addressed the crowd. "My father didn't just rescue me from danger that night," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "He rescued my future, my hope, and my belief that the world could be better. Everything I am today, and everything I've been able to do for others, is because he chose to stop and care." The audience, filled with dignitaries, families, and children whose lives Marcus's foundation had touched, erupted into a standing ovation. Pictures of Marcus flashed on a giant screen behind Zara, a young, powerful billionaire in his prime, a devoted father laughing with Zara and Lila, and an older man, wise and kind, surrounded by children he had helped over the years. Lila sat in the front row holding Zara's hand, her heart swelling with both grief and gratitude. After the ceremony, Zara walked alone to a quiet park bench, the very spot where Marcus had first seen her all those years ago, running terrified through the night. The street was well lit now, safe and clean, a symbol of how far they had all come. She sat down and let the memories wash over her, from the moment of fear to the life of love and purpose Marcus had built for her. In that stillness, Zara made a silent promise. She would continue his mission, not just through speeches and programs, but through everyday acts of kindness and courage. She knew her father's greatest lesson wasn't about wealth or power. It was about seeing people, truly seeing them, even in their darkest moments. As she rose and walked away, the sun breaking over the horizon, Zara smiled through her tears. Her father's story had begun with a single act on a dark night, but now it was a beacon of hope for the entire world. And though Marcus was gone, his legacy lived on. In her, in the countless lives he had saved, and in the light that would never fade.